Today's lesson we'll be discussing the 6 EE3 standard. It'll be the final lesson of my unit plan that I created. For my objectives for this lesson, there are just two. One is the students will be able to apply the properties of operations to generate equivalent expressions, and the second one is the students will be able to use distributive property to create new equivalent expressions and convert to the original. So for the last lesson, we dabbled a little bit into this, and this lesson we're going to go more in depth on how you use factoring and distributive property. So I wanted to start with one question, and of course I already answered it for you, but I want to break down on how you use the factors and how you would actually get to that distributive property. So our first question is 24x plus 16, and to factor it out, it would equal 8 parentheses, so times 3x plus 2. So we're going to start with this right here. So 24x plus 16, and in order to factor, you're going to see what two factors multiplied together equal the two numbers. So first we're going to start with 24. So I'm going to list the factors that make up 24. So the first obvious choice is going to be 1 and 24, because every number can be multiplied by itself, or by 1. The second would be 2 and 12, because 2 times 12 equals 24. And then the next one would be 3 times 8, which equals 24. And then 6 times 4. And then now we're going to be listing our factors of 16, and then we're going to find a common factor to figure out this distribution. So for 16, of course, you can always multiply it by 1. So 1 times 16. And then it can be divided by 2, so it'll be 2 and 8. And then it also can be broken down into 4 and 4. So obviously there are very many similar factors you could use, but you want to use the greatest one that'll give you a more simplified equation. So if we're looking here, it looks like we have 2 as a common factor. We have 8 as a common factor, and we have 4 as a common factor. So now we have the choices of 2, 4, and 8. So out of these three, our greatest factor would be 8. So that's the number we're going to be simplifying from. So if we're going from 24 and 16, we're going to keep the x, or that'll be on the inside of the parentheses. So if we're taking 8 out of 24, the 8 goes on the outside of the parentheses. And then we're going to figure out 8 times what equals 24x. So 8, so we had our factors here, so we have 8 times 3. So you're going to just add the x in with a 3 to become 3x. And then plus 2, so you're now going to come to the 16. So 16 divided by 8 would give you 2. So you just do plus 2, and there's no variable there. So the easiest technique to use is just find the factors, and you want to find the greatest common factor that you can simplify for these. And now we're going to work on some together. Some are easy, some are not. So we're going to do some distributive and some simplified factoring. So I'm going to go ahead and go on this side. So we have y plus 3y would equal what?
4y.
Yes, 4y. And this one is just simple adding like terms. So now we have 2 in parentheses x plus 3. So you're going to use your distributive property. Do 2 times x plus 2 times 3. So what is 2 times x?
2x.
Yes. And then plus
6.
2 times 3 is 6. Yes. Alright, now we have 4x plus 8. This is where we're going to use our factoring. So we list our factors of 4. What can you multiply together to get 4?
1 and 4.
So 1 and 4 would be our first pair. And then there's one more.
2 and 2.
2 and 2. Now if we were to factor 8, what would be our factors to get multiplied to equal 8?
1 and 8.
Yep. 1 and 8, or 1 in the number is always an obvious choice. And then what's another one?
2 and 4.
2 and 4. So that is what equals 8. So as we can see, what are the numbers that are common factors?
4 and 2 and 1.
Well, of course there's 1. But 1 is always going to be excluded because you can't simplify that out of the equation. So we have 2 and 4. And out of 2 and 4, which is the biggest?
4.
Yes, so we're going to pull 4 out. So now we're left with x. So 4 divided by 4x, or 4x divided by 4 would be what?
X.
Yep. Then we have the plus sign. And 8 divided by 4 would be what?
2.
Yes. So now our simplified expression would be 4 parentheses x plus 2. And now to our final question. We have 5 parentheses, or times, 2x minus y. So what? We would use our distributive property. 5 times 2x minus 5 times y. So what's 5 times 2x?
10x.
Yes. And then 5 times negative y?
Negative 5y.
5 minus 5y. So the same can go vice versa when you're doing these expressions. So when you're doing 4y, you could honestly split that into whatever you want. You could do y plus y plus y plus y equals 4y, or 2y plus 2y equals 4y, or just any kind of variation like that. And the same here, how we have our expression, we use distributive property to get. The same thing, if you were given this problem, you could find your common factors in order to make it into the other equation. So you can do the same thing with that. And also for this lesson, I wanted to use like little slips that the students would get. They could either work in pairs or in teams. It's kind of like a matching game. So they would be given like multiple slips of these, and there would be a matching pair, one that hasn't been simplified and one that has, where they would either have to factor or they would have to use distributive property. So like one example would be 6x plus 48. You would have, the matching would be 6 parentheses x plus 8. I'll give you the answer. And whoever finished first obviously would be the winners. And the last thing they would do for kind of like their closing or even their independent practice is a Kahoot. I prepared 5 questions. I attached the link in the lesson plan. And it kind of gives me an overview as well as them. It's testing their knowledge on if they understood the concept or even if they have any questions. It also adds a little bit of fun. I know Kahoots are fun for everyone, basically. It gives them able to compete, and they're also understanding the lessons. So for that, and me being able to understand, I know from the matching game, I'll be walking around, see if they have any questions, see if they're grasping the concept. And I also know from future tests or homework assignments, and I will meet with those students one-on-one, just seeing how they did and if they need to improve. And that's all for today, and that concludes my unit plan for 6th grade math.